This is going to be fun.
So cool.
Arcade Studio Podcast.
Let's do it. We're here. We're live.
With Benjamin Thompson.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys.
So we're going to be talking about a whole lot of stuff tonight.
I think so.
Yeah. But do you want to? Should we start like with sea shanties?
Yes.
No, I'm kidding. No, let's start pretty much with what you're planning right now, and then we can get back into it afterwards. But you're doing like a VR experience right now, and we're just going to tease it a little bit, and
we'll tease it a little bit. So mostly for Milan. I'm looking at you. I'm looking straight in the camera here. The too long didn't read version is that me and some friends we've always really wanted to bring something cool to Milan, something original. And we've tried various times to set up a company. And for various reasons, it's quite difficult to find land and do what you want to do in Milan. So around October of this year, we finally we've identified what we wanted to do. And this October, we decided we were going to go for it. So we have bought the rights to bring Zero Latency VR to Milan. We have the exclusive rights for Milan, and we'll be the first venue in Italy. The plan is to open in April if the COVID situation is tolerable. Basically, if we can get back to Zona Gialla, we can open.
Awesome.
Nice.
Because we're basically sort of classified as an escape room. But we have much more space. We have 100, and the way the game works is 8 people can play in the same virtual reality environment. You wear a backpack with a computer, and you wear a headset, and you have a controller that looks like a rifle. And Zero Latency has about 8 different games that you can play. And Far Cry, they made a partnership with Ubisoft. Far Cry is coming out later this year, so we're really pumped for that. But basically, you're not tethered. So you have different types of VR technology, and one of them is tethered, where the power, essentially, for the VR system is coming from a cable. Mm-hmm. And that can limit your movements. Mm-hmm. And you also have at-home VR solutions where your movement is limited. Maybe you interact with your hands and you hold a controller, or you jump, but that's about it. The Zero Latency concept is get rid of all that. We want you to be in an open space. We want you to be multiplayer, and we don't want you to have a tether. So you put on the goggles and everything, and the system talks to itself, and it keeps you from bumping into each other. So for COVID, to keep operations around the world, normally the system would send an alarm when you're about a meter apart. They've adjusted the parameters there, so it keeps all the players always 1.5 to 2 meters apart. So you're already okay. We might have to reduce attendance from 8 to 6 until COVID gets by, but you're still having this multiplayer experience. And you're all in the same world. So after the game boots, you put on the headphones and you're in, or the mask, and you're in sort of this matrixy, very digital world. And then they boot up the game, and you're in a space station, or fighting zombies, or in like this weird dreamscape. And it's really a mind trip, but you have to work together, you talk, you completely forget where you are. And it's really cool. And then afterwards, there's a whole protocol to follow to sanitize the equipment, make sure it's all clean for the next group. So we're COVID safe.
Yeah, of course.
As long as we can open, we're COVID safe. And you can learn more. Maybe I'll send you guys the link. You can put it in the lower third
absolutely.
But one of the follow-up episode to this, I want to get the Studio Arcade guys in to our venue. Ooh. And see what happens, man.
I'm already excited.
Yeah. I was excited when the first time you told me. I was like, oh god, this is going to be awesome. Because I'm a big fan of paintball, and
I'm a huge paintball fan.
Dude, I love that kind of stuff. I'd never have a chance to do it as much as I'd like to, but whenever I get it, there's a really good place near Pavia, which is like all indoor. It's like a Medina sort of thing, and that we had like a bit of fun going there. And so, like, whenever I get a chance to shoot something, it's rad.
So the original business plan was we've tried twice to open a paintball field here in the city, which is hard. I mean, you have a lot more legal, let's say, difficulties to overcome. And the last time it just didn't work. We thought we were going to make it, and the commune didn't zone the land right, etc.
Oh, wow.
But we had all the capital ready to launch this thing. Because I've got a friend in Sweden, and for about 5 years, I go there every year. We've been working on a system that's also coming out in about a month. Basically, when you play Call of Duty or something online, you have this objective scoring. So I know when René took the flag. I know how many points you got at the end of the day. So at the end of the game, your video game, you get this output of data that can rank people and keeps track of your statistics.
Right.
This doesn't exist for paintball or soft air. Like, you just go in the parking lot and you're like,
and you shoot.
I was the best.
So good, man.
So good. I flipped the flag. Did you flip the flag? I don't know. I wasn't there. So what we've done is he's created this box system. And yeah, it sounds silly. What's a box?
It's like a black box.
Yeah, they look like black boxes.
Right.
Every box can be programmed in different, however you need it to be. So it can be a bomb, it can be a flag. It can be a flag that you flip once and you win. So like on René, you have to get to that flag, but it's very hard to get to. So you just have to get in there and push the button. It can be a flag that you flip it, and then after you flipped it, it counts for time. So every minute your team gets a point.
So you have to hold the flag for...
It can be a bomb that counts down. So after you click it, it starts maybe a 10-minute timer. And after it reaches the 10-minute timer, there's actually an adaptation. So you can hook it up to pyrotechnics if you want. So if you're a field and you live in a country where this is legal, after the bomb counts down, you can have it set off a firecracker or something.
Sick.
Or like the classic Counter-Strike. I don't know if you've ever played Counter-Strike.
Yeah, definitely.
You get to the bomb and then you have to hold the space bar while it like activates the bomb, and that's like the most stressful naked feeling.
Yeah, because you have to keep...
You can't shoot, you can't turn, you're just there. So the way it works is you arrive and you like push the button, and you have to hold like both buttons, so you need both your hands.
Oh, damn.
So, and you just have to hold it, and you can set the parameters. So you have to hold it for 30 seconds or something, which is a really long time.
So you have to get there with a teammate, otherwise you're fucked,
and like we can set in a siren that starts. So like you're holding it, the siren's going, and you have 30 seconds.
That sounds like fun, because one of the things that gets me, like when I played paintball in South Africa, it's Africa, so the rule, like the guns were up to max the PSIs. So when that thing hit you, it hurt. People played in t-shirts and shorts, and it was fun because you were shitting yourself the whole time.
Afraid.
You were afraid of getting hit. Like you come home like covered in like actual like proper bruises. And when I started playing here, the few times that I went, it was always just like, you sort of feel it, but it's like, okay, well, if I just run for it and I get hit a couple of times,
it's not gonna stop me.
I mean, it's gonna kill me for the game, but it doesn't hurt. Right?
I'm not de-incentivized from trying.
And my mind doesn't work like that. I want to be scared of something. I want to have the big forward who's gonna tackle me and hurt me. Like otherwise, where's the fun in the game, right?
Sure. So
having something like this that makes it a bit more realistic, like for someone like me, which I realize I'm the minority in this country, but at the same time, like it would really, like I would go more often because of something like that, because you have to like build up a skill set that actually...
You have to work together more.
Yeah, you have to work together.
And it all has RFID chip. So you wear it like on your wrist, so that when you do it, the system knows like René did it.
Right.
You did it. So then all of that gets communicated to a database with an API, and it will go on a website, and we can rent the boxes to paintball fields in Sweden, in Italy, and Germany. We create like an international network. You can rank players. You can see how they did.
You have championships.
You can have championships, but you can have like objective championships.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've been working on that for a long time. A lot of iterations of boxes. Like every Christmas, go there, play with the boxes, and he codes and stuff. He taught himself to code just to be able to do this. So that's also coming out. I'll share that link too, because that's coming out soon too.
Because
then like you organize these like really big paintball like I don't know, events. I remember like some videos that you showed me like a while back.
Way back, I was one of the first, not the first, and not the most famous by any means, but one of the first YouTube paintball channels. It's still active. SPB TV, if you want to see me like 15 years ago.
Some crazy shit there, man.
Scenario Paintball TV. I think we've got about 500 videos because what ended up happening is because a lot of work. I mean, you guys know filming and editing and stuff. And especially when you play paintball, you have like a head cam or a gun cam. So you have to like sort through all the footage. A lot of it's just like tree, bush, tree. So
you like a box system just to like recognize like good footage.
Or you get like a little bit of paint on the lens, but you didn't know that. So you think you have great footage and you get home and like the whole day is just trash.
Oh, fuck.
So what we did is rather than have like 8 people each with their own YouTube channel, I just started trying to find people who were creating the content and then maybe other people who liked editing. And we basically made a narco-syndicalist commune, and we all operated under SPB TV. Especially when I moved to Italy, because when I first moved to Italy, paintball was illegal here.
Yeah.
So like my content was just like, boop, gone. But then there's been other people who've sort of carried the flag. It's a little low now, but for about 5 years, we got some videos with like, I don't know, 50,000 views, 60,000 views. But we were going to all the big games in the US, like huge games, 3,000 people, 4,000 people.
It's madness.
And now in Europe, I'm on like the board of the largest scenario team in Europe. We're called the Northern Alliance, and we got more than usually we can field more than 100 players. There's probably about 250 on the roster. We got like a Michelin-starred chef because we went to this huge game in Germany, EBG, RIP, because they went bankrupt during COVID. So there's no more EBG.
Damn.
Yeah, really sad. Like last year in May, it got canceled, and that was going to be our 10-year anniversary. And then now they just announced like insolvency. So we have to find a new way, a new place to go. But we would bring all these. We would go, and everyone would have to bring their own tent. You have to bring your own food. And like, why are we doing this? Like, what if we all just combined powers? So like, we talked to people on the team, like, oh, this guy has a truck license. This guy's in the Dutch army, and he can like sign out military tents, like the huge tents. So then we just made a thing where like, okay, you give me $100, you give me $100, you give me $100, and everything will be sorted when you arrive in Germany. So we'd rent this huge 18-wheeler, and the guy with the license would drive it. He would drive it to the Dutch army base, and he would pick up the tents. Then we had a Michelin-starred chef from Amsterdam, and he gets like discount prices on grade A food. So instead of like being in the German wilds, like eating your boiled hot dog with like steak, foie gras. One year we had oysters, and he had like a kilt with like lemon juice, vodka, Tabasco sauce. Like, how would you like your oyster? So yeah, it just metastasized from like we were just trying to save a little money, and then it metastasized into this huge like international family. But yeah, I feel you with like the paintball, and also in Italy, like it's been really painful for me to like come here and be like, it's not quite what I want.
Yeah, you get it, because like the thing is like, well, also when I moved here, 2003, it was illegal, like you said, and there was no soft air either. So because it was like dangerous, you could lose an eye.
You'll shoot your eye out.
For some ridiculous reason. So then for years, like I was getting into it quite a bit in South Africa, because I worked in a restaurant, and the owner was an ex-helicopter pilot for the South African Defence Force. Served in Angola. So he was a bit of a psychopath. And all the team building exercises were always paintball.
Let's do team building.
With alcohol.
We just did it last week.
With alcohol, like a real war.
I didn't heal yet.
Dude, and if you won like the paintball, like if you were deemed the best like paintballer by this guy, because he would decide, he'd take you on helicopter flips with the Pumas.
Flips.
Yeah, on the helicopter, he would take you out onto the Drakensberg mountain ranges. Right. You fly around in this like ex-military helicopter, which is it's amazing.
Where's this restaurant? Maybe I can...
The restaurant, he's quit restauranting, and he's back on helicopters again. Thank God. He flies, it's the Italian, what do they call them? Leonardo's, the really good ones in Dubai now, making a killing. I saw him last year. He was, 2 years ago, he was here doing some training on the new helicopters. It's like space age. You don't even understand.
I do, because one of the partners for Zero Latency designs helicopters for Leonardo, like super small world.
Look, it's all like connected, man.
That's his day job, man. It's like, I can't work on it right now. I'm designing a helicopter. I'll call you after work hours. Okay, buddy.
No worries, man. Put it together safe. Make sure it's...
we're like beyond safe. He's looking at like the luxury stuff. Like, what kind of mahogany do you want?
Oh, beautiful. Wow. So he's like the interiors.
Yeah, we're all riding economy. Yeah.
Like mahogany or like ivory.
I was like, do you want some peanuts?
So you seemed like a serial entrepreneur rather than like somebody that just wants to get things off the ground. And you're in the perfect country for that.
Oh, God. Don't talk to me. I could tell you, we can start there. Ben, what the hell are you doing in Italy? So in 2006, I went on a Euro trip, like a good little American, I'm going to like go around Europe, club, meet girls.
What movie got you to do that?
It was called Euro Trip. I thought it was a documentary starring Seth Green. Exactly. It wasn't actually a documentary. It was a fiction.
Unfortunately.
We came to Italy, and I knew a model. She's cool, but she was supposed to be here, and she was going to let us like stay with her and show us around. But she got called away on a shoot in Spain. So we didn't communicate, because we were flying and she was flying. So we arrived in Milan, like, what the hell do we do? So we tried to buy tickets to go to Barcelona, Spain. And we bought those tickets, and we got on a train from Milan to Barcelona. And we went to sleep. And we woke up in Rome. And I was like, because I've been in the mountains with my dad since I was a little kid, and I like had a rough idea of what Europe looked like. I was like, Barcelona's over here and Milan's here and Rome's like down here. So like,
What the hell?
what's going on? Like maybe we're gonna get on a high speed train in Rome and we're just gonna change tracks and then we're gonna go back and we're gonna do the whole coast. Whatever. We went back to sleep. And then we woke up a couple hours later and there was this guy in the cabin with us and he's like, "Oh, where are you going?" And we're like, "Barcelona." And he was like,
No.
he's like, "Let me see your tickets." And he turns out he works for Interpol. He was a cool guy. And he was like, "Yeah, you're not going to Barcelona, Spain." Like, "Oh, where are we going?" So when you get to Naples, the train's going to get on a ferry and then it's going to bring you over to Sicily. And you might have to change trains and that will get you to Barcelona, Sicily.
Holy shit!
Oh my god! I was wondering like where the whole like mix up was.
I was like, wait. So when we get to Sicily, there'll be like a big ferry that will take us to Spain. He's like, no. Your tickets aren't to Barcelona, Spain. They're to Barcelona, Sicily. And I looked at my friend who had gone to buy the tickets, and I was like, what the fuck? So we exited the train in Naples. We were immediately robbed. We had no more money left. We managed to like sneak on a train that got us back to Milan. We had no money for 3 days because this was 2006. You couldn't just like wire money. So I had to like wait 3 days for a bank transfer to go through. So we slept on the street outside Station Centrale for 3 nights. One morning we woke up and we went around the corner and there was a dead body like on the tracks with like no face and no hands, like just completely massacred. And we were like, fuck this country. I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere civilized. So we got on a train and we went to Geneva and I swore to like high God I would never come back to Italy. And if I ever wanted to see Italy, I would just buy a National Geographic. So that was 2006. 2011, I was in Sweden studying, trying to meet like a calm, blonde Swedish girl and spend my life.
Do they exist?
Living on northern welfare. Yeah. Instead, I met like a fiery, half Napolitana, half Calabrese woman, and I fell in love. And in 2012, I moved back here. So
Real warrior.
it didn't work out, man. The one place on the world, the one city, I was like, I will never come back here. That's the one place I'm living now.
You did sort of experience Milan like very few people do unless they come off boats.
It's like 3 days in front of Station Centrale. It's like a standard like stop.
He's never even done 3 days in front of Station Centrale. He goes skating there like every day.
Yeah, I spent like 20 years there almost, and I was like never had to sleep there. And you're a friend who did though, because like he would just like randomly pop up at my house, like even uninvited, and he would always stay at my house. And like one day I was like, you can't just like come and sleep in my house like this. And I was like, okay, can I sleep here tonight? I'm like, no. And he was like, I thought he had like a backup plan because he was from Como, but he is from Como. And like the next day I see him and I was like kind of ragged. And I was like, what the hell happened? It's like, I slept like underneath a face statue in the Station Centrale. And I didn't want to even like go back on my words. I was like, how was it?
You didn't even apologize.
It was fine. I had like an MP3 player and I was like, okay. Fucking psycho.
Renee's like, I'm not going to feel like a dick. I'm not going to feel like a dick. How was it?
How was it? Was it comfortable?
What a great experience.
I love that statue.
How was the night sky?
Sick. So now you married an Italian woman and you're stuck here for a while at least, which is the same problem that I have pretty much. But it happens. It's all right. But once you get to know the city, it's not that bad.
Oh, it's way better now than it was in 2006. Don't be afraid to come to Milan now.
Yeah,
it's totally different.
It's a different city.
Totally different.
They've in the meantime they've cleaned up the tracks and
the
guys.
We still have dead bodies, but they're not on the tracks anymore.
At Centrale.
Yeah. But the big problem with this country in general is trying to start a business. That's the thing that people always struggle with, and it's one of the reasons why Italy's, I think, like still in the top 10 highest grossing countries in the world, but it's just old money basically recycling itself. Yeah, or defense.
Not for new businesses, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's not new businesses, unfortunately.
It's so hard. There's so many things you don't even know about. You get blindsided when you try to make a budget, or like different consortiums you have to register for that you didn't even know existed, and there's no like documentation list. Yeah. There's no like, this is everything you need. Like I printed T-shirts in university in the US. I like had a little bit of money. My buddy was like, you should screen print. I was like, okay. I bought a screen printing. I set up a doing business, a DBA as we call it in the US. It took like a day at the Chamber of Commerce. I had a little website and I had to pay my taxes. And that was basically it. The rest of it was easy. Like have fun, good luck. You know, here, like just the notaio costs. I mean, can we talk about a notary? A public notary in the US is like $15 to $20 a signature. And you don't even need that to start a business. Here, you need to go to a notary every time you want to move.
Yeah, basically.
And that's like between $2,000 to $5,000 every time you want to sign a document. So that was like a shock, because the first time we tried to start the paintball field, we put together some money, and you can look at like US business plans for starting a paintball field, and you're looking at 50 to 60K maybe. So even if you inflate that to 100K, you put together some money, and then you go to the notaio and you're out like $5,000.
Yeah,
and then $10,000 for registrations, and then you have to start paying taxes immediately. So you're out like $20,000 before you even, like in the first week, because you were like, oh, I'd like to start a business.
Yeah.
Pay me everything you have.
Oh, that's nice. You have money then.
Where do you get this? Like, start giving it back, right?
That's part of the reason we did Zero Latency. I mean, the company was founded in Australia, so there's still a whole lot of bureaucracy we had to do, but like the actual like, hi, I would like to franchise your business. Oh, that would be lovely. Give us a suitcase of money and we'll give you the franchise. And that will be it. Like sign a document and bam. So I think Italy could work on that. I mean, it's tough especially for young creative people.
Yeah. The biggest thing is like any. Are you struggling there?
Yeah, I can't like get it under
Can I help you with that?
Yes, please. Yes,
I got a ring. That,
oh yeah.
That you can. I left it at home. I was like, this is.
No, but I've got like so many.
Oh, you're just saying like old school, like.
Yeah, dude. Like if you don't do it the one way, do it the other one. A boermakaplan.
Yeah, because I boermakaplan. Some Afrikaans there.
I mean, it must be challenging, because I think a lot of people, like international people, they want to come to Italy for the art, for the inspiration. You got architecture, you got paintings, you got music. Then you come here and you want to actually like make a life for yourself around that.
Yeah.
Like all my wife's Italian friends, not all of them, but let's say 90% of them they don't live in Italy. They moved away. Maybe they moved to Switzerland or Denmark or Sweden.
Yeah.
Or Belgium, but they're not here. I mean, because it's tough.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good place to work. Like, I mean, if you're a freelancer, I mean, it's not good, but compared to, like in my job as a photographer, London is obviously the Holy Grail, or New York, or maybe Los Angeles, or something like that. But the way of life that you have in Italy compared to London or New York or whatever, with the same money, is like way higher. So
the quality of life.
The quality of life is really good.
I'll drink to that.
That's so yeah, absolutely.
So the quality of life.
Quality of life wins. But then we struggle with like
business,
trying to do the next step, because once you've opened up your studio or anything like that, then you want to maybe diversify a little bit. As soon as you diversify, oh wait, hang on a second, your Partita IVA doesn't cover that sort of business, so you can't actually add like a catering thing on the side. You have to open a different one, pay a whole different set of taxes.
Back to the notaio.
Yeah, go back to the notaio and do everything again. So it kills everything, kills the whole creativity. And we always say, like, without boundaries, there's no creativity. But
this is exaggerating.
This is the wrong kind of creativity, because people get like
asphyxiated.
Asphyxiated, or they do things legally.
Sure. You force people underground.
You force them to do things off the books.
Why is half our economy in the black? I don't know. Maybe because we made it impoble for little people.
Let's look under this rug here, Ricky. Under the Italian rug.
I totally get it.
So it's madness. But what brought the interest? Because like the business you talked about were all like gaming related. So it's like obviously something comes from like, is it from video games that got you into like playing with guns, or?
My parents were really against video games. To be honest.
Like everyone.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
We weren't allowed to own a console or anything. It was a big deal. We got a computer. We were allowed to go to other kids' houses and play. So like, you better believe I made friends with like whoever had like the Sega. That was my friend.
Too.
Ben, you don't even like that kid. Yeah, he's my best friend.
What was the game that got you hooked?
Yeah. Halo. I mean, back in the day, because there was no internet kind of thing, we would make a LAN party. I guess now you call it a LAN party.
LAN party.
Yeah.
We called it like taking because there were no smart TVs, flat screen TVs back then. So you had to like find, with Halo, you could actually get 16 people to play simultaneously. Like the game was set up for that. So we were like, we're going to do this. And then like when when we used to play 4 people on one screen, you could screen each other. I could see like you're going to snipe me.
Did you do the cardboard box thing?
we did that, but then we evolved. So we figured out who the people were that had like the biggest TVs. Then we figured out who had like a pickup truck that could pick those up. And then we would always have to, like, it depended on which house we were at. We'd always have some guy have to go to Walmart to buy like a 25 meter cable. And we would hook all those TVs up. But the way it worked is like everyone in this room, you're on one team on your TV.
Oh, damn.
So they made Halo for keeps because like you spent your whole youth like screening people.
Right.
But now you're just with your friends in one room, and you like the whole like the sniper evolution was crazy because then the snipers are just picking you off, and you're like, oh my God, René's down. Where did it come from? So yeah, I mean, I was into gaming, but I wasn't allowed to do it at home. My parents were more like, go play in the woods, don't die.
Nice.
They were ER doctors, so if I got hurt, they'd just like fix me up at home.
That's awesome.
Like, oh yeah, you don't need stitches. You just put some dirt and some duct tape on there.
Well, our dad was the same. He didn't. Stitches were not.
Stitches?
Stitches were for bitches.
Sounds expensive.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's 2 pieces of fiber. No.
I was bleeding.
It was
out.
metal back in the day. That shit
Staples.
costs.
I cut my leg open. I have a scar like that big, like super thick, because I was jumping into a pool, like a tidal pool, like on the beachfront. And in South Africa, they don't cut the oysters off the rock. They basically open them up halfway. So they leave the bottom.
Oh, they leave the blades.
They leave the blades on the rocks.
It's like the edges of the map in Mortal Kombat.
In a place where children play, right?
Well,
So I was jumping into the
natural
pool.
selection.
And my dad thought I was going to jump onto him because I was trying to jump over him, but he miscalculated my athletic skills. So
Dads often do.
He got worried and he grabbed me, pulled me back, and I slammed against this thing, and it just like sliced me open like butter knife, and I completely. And I was just like bleeding like everywhere. He's just like got some gaffer tape.
It's just like stuck it together.
You're fine. Go for it.
And then, like,
You'll be good to go.
And then bleeding in a tidal pool means all the little fish come and like eat at your.
I was gonna say South Africa. Were you in Durban? Like,
Yeah, near Durban. Yeah. No, but
Jesus.
no problem with sharks.
What could go wrong?
You're fine.
And even like the smallest fish like scares the shit out of you like that. I remember like in the same tidal pool, like we had like these bodyboards, and like when they got old, they started like to chip away, kind of like the sponge
melt.
would come away, and like inside the sponge was like this fucking shank, pretty much.
Surprise!
And it was like I slipped on it, and it just like cut like a little cut. I still got like the scar on my leg, like a little cut, and it was like, okay, whatever. It stings a little bit with the seawater, and I started feeling like it started eating they're eating me alive, man. I just like fucking started running away. Like
There was this weird infestation of these like really aggressive fish, like tiny fish that just
Tiny cannibals.
Yeah, they just bit anybody that walked into the pool. So at one point they just like drained it out. And
Yeah, maybe we should
let's start again.
close this pool off.
Yeah, but there's a story. There are stories about tidal pools where like the high tide washed sharks into them.
And they're stuck there.
You get stuck there, and then they have to like get them out somehow. And white sharks. So you got to take a white shark and somehow
Lift it.
catch it from a tidal pool and lift it and take it outside. I don't know how they did it. They must have darted it or something. I don't know. I have no idea.
it's like a
But-
net,
but
like
it-
one of those little kids' nets.
But they could easily be like one of those like wives' tales that people tell, because it was one of those stories that went around.
Well, like if you remember how like the high tide would like always
Yeah,
at a certain time it would come into the pool
yeah.
and just like wash
Oh, we had
over.
whale sharks washing up onto the beach.
The big ones.
Yeah,
Big
yeah.
ones, yeah.
8 meter whale shark. It was like a juvenile, apparently.
8 meters is
8
juvenile.
meters. Yeah, it
You
was
can grow more.
It's
massive.
fine.
You're a teenager.
Yeah. And
Yeah, they
we
cut
all
that
went
shit
to
up.
watch it at school, like after school. They didn't have to get rid of this thing. So it was chainsaws and a big hole on the beach.
Can't even eat them.
Africa's amazing, dude.
I'm just like, circle.
No, it got hit by
A boat.
Lightning.
by lightning apparently. Got hit by lightning because they're massive, and then they fly. They swim sometimes like right on the edge of the water. Obviously, like you got zapped. Like
Probably had like a piece of metal like from someone
once in a
like some
lifetime sort of
scientist.
and so
Like,
it
this was
just
fine.
washed up.
We know it was hit by lightning because the tag we put on it attracted the lightning.
Exactly. That's exactly when the tag went off. Like,
Where's Judith?
No, I mean,
So,
yeah, we couldn't do video gaming. We invented other games. So like I was exposed to Dungeons and Dragons. And my
Alright.
parents were like, none of that. So, but what I had, and like my my 3 experiences with Dungeons and Dragons, I had absorbed enough of the concept that I came back home. My little brother and all his little friends was like, okay, so what we're gonna do. So we took all the Playmobiles. You know Playmobiles?
Yeah.
So we had like all these medieval Playmobiles, like knights and swords. And my parents had a home business and they had a scanner. And we scanned every fucking piece of Playmobil, like every helmet, everything on the pieces of paper. And then we like wrote hit points, cost, like dexterity needed to use. And we made like a deck of cards for the entire inventory of physical toys that we had. And then my parents had a room about this big, no, maybe half the size, with these really distinct tiles that were about 10 meters by 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. So it looks like a map. Like if you're thinking about video game, a map. It's like a very uniform space. And then we took like cardboard boxes and shoe boxes and we made like castles and towns and all. And it was a big space and we filled the whole space out. And then we made rules. So like, okay, if you're like a level 1, you can move like this far at a time. And if you have a horse, you can move this far at a time. And then we had all the dice and all like the decision-making stuff. So we like made like a retcon version of Dungeons and Dragons that was 3D. And my parents were like, this is so cool. They're being so creative. What they didn't know is I fucking memorized everything.
No, but at the same time, but they force you to actually make it yourself, which I mean, it probably puts you a good step for all the rest of the things that you have to do.
Yeah, they didn't put the kibosh on it. They thought it was cool.
Yeah.
And we upgraded. We made this. So I don't know if you remember Playmobil, but they had like U.S. cavalry.
Oh yeah. They have a bit of like all the sort of playsets.
So the U.S. cavalry came with this like cannon piece, like this old school cannon, like a T-bar with wheels, and then you can put the cannon on. If you take the wheels off, and you take the cannon barrel off, you have just this like plastic T with these little I don't know what they're called. Like the plastic's been cut a little bit so that when you put the wheel on, it expands.
Okay, yeah.
But it's got these little slats in it. And we took rubber bands, you put them in the slat, and then you take an unsharpened pencil, and you have a little crossbow.
For sure unsharpened, right?
Super unsharpened. We're good.
Yeah.
So
lead poisoning the next day.
Then we made like huge Lego armies, like massive. We would say like, okay, on Friday or Saturday, we're going to have the battle. You have all week to build your shit. So then like you come home, you do your homework, and you have to like try to build your shit. And you could also build like terrain. So you were allowed, each person was allowed a certain amount of resources. And then we would like, one person could go in and set up their setup on like the back third of the room. And then they had to cover it with a blanket. And then the other person could go in and set up their setup with the back third. And then we would put some public like terrain pieces around on squares in the middle. And then we would reveal everything. And then the way it worked the same way we did with the Playmobiles. Like you could move a certain distance based if you were like a foot soldier or you're on a car or you're in a tank. And then you either have a rubber band gun that shot a rubber band, or if you had a tank, you were allowed to shoot this contrived crossbow pencil. And like you would slowly advance your Legos across the room, like total turn-based combat. And you would slowly advance and you could choose like, do I shoot, do I move, or what do I do? But each unit, so you just start on the left side of the board and you'd go across and you'd make all your decisions.
Sick.
And then your opponent would do it. But it was super visceral because you shoot like these Legos with a pencil.
And they just explode.
Especially because you had to shoot from the distance. So maybe like you shoot this far, nothing happens. But eventually your Legos are like this close to each other. And you let fly with this pencil at point blank range. And it just like pieces everywhere.
I got you now.
And my parents, who were not cool with D&D, who were not cool with video games, were like, this is awesome.
How was like
carry on?
Like during the week, there was definitely like some sabotaging and like spying going on.
So I'm not going to brag, but I was really good at making like mobile infantry armies, like tanks that could drive up and then drop off troops and stuff. And I was just beating the shit out of my brother. So what he did one day is he basically tore down his entire army, and he just built one giant block of a robot out of Legos that was like probably this tall. Like I don't know if you can see, at least like half a meter tall. I don't know if you know, we're not using Duplos. We're using
probably.
It was solid because he basically learned everything that I had done to like shoot the legs out of. Because I was building tanks and trucks, and he was building like walking robots, and I was always like, okay, fucking clip the legs, man. We all watch Star Wars.
Yeah, man.
Clip the legs are done.
Bring it down. But he built this huge thing, and basically there was nothing I could do because the rubber band gun was useless because it was just this robot. So like a rubber band gun hits a little Lego guy, and he falls over, and it's clear what happened. But you could shoot rubber bands at this all day. Nothing's going to happen. So it became very clear to me that the only thing I could possibly do was get as close as possible with my entire army and then shoot him with pencils point blank range. And like, but I had to cross the entire room to do that because he was just standing there like Godzilla. It was totally like a Godzilla movie. Like I would bring up my best unit and like maybe I would get like an arm to like start to fall off, but he had like other arms with guns on them. So he would just like, the end of like 4 hours, like my entire beautiful mech infantry was like just destroyed. All the buildings, like, because we could build the buildings, but you could shoot the buildings with the pencils, so the buildings would explode too. So there's just like those swath of destruction from like one end of the room to the other because my boys had to make like a mad sprint for it just to be able to try to maybe like take an arm off.
That's so fucking. I mean, how was the first reveal? Like when you first, I was like, oh my god.
It was like, what are you doing? Because it becomes really short turns if you only have one unit in your army. So it's like, okay, I'm going to move like this truck. I probably had like 27 units, and that's before I like dispersed my infantry. So like my turns took a long time.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm going to move here. It's really heavy, so I can't move so far. So I just went here, and then nothing happened. I was like, okay, whatever, we got this. I'll go again. My turn. Thanks.
Nothing's happening.
That's amazing. No, but that's again, that's a discussion of constraints the developing creativity because, like,
sure,
you know, your parents just didn't buy you shit that you could just play with out of the box, and you had to figure it out, and then it just becomes games because then you can apply the rules that you learn from one game to the next, and then you can apply it to life, and you can apply it to everything, right? So it's like,
and they were probably watching like Overlords, like. The middle son is growing well. He created a robot. Excellent.
All the other neighborhood parents were like, so my son wants to come over to your house, and I think the first game we called it Swag. Swag, that was the name of the Playmobil game, but it stood for like strength, weapons, armor, and gear because that was the classifications, but it was Swag, so it sounds really cool. But the parents would call my mom and be like, so my son wants to come over to your house and play Swag? And I've never heard of that game before. So could you just talk to me about what is Swag? Like I can't even buy it at the store. And then my mom had to be like, yeah, I don't buy my kids Nintendos. They invented some weird game with Playmobiles and then they have an economy and they murder each other. Yeah.
Okay.
But your son's welcome to come over. It's very creative.
Play. It's fantastic. Where did you grow up? What's your home state?
Upstate New York.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Like 5 hours from New York City. New York's very big. I'm going to tell you, dear viewers, because I went to Sweden and I was like, I'm from New York. And they're like, oh my God, I love Manhattan. Great. Manhattan is, 5.5 hours at full speed from my house. New York's very big. And I live in basically a national park in the mountains.
Fantastic.
And the closest city is Montreal, which is great when you're a U.S. citizen and you turn 18 because Canadians are civilized.
And they can drink at 18.
You can drink at 18. So, yeah. It was about 40 minutes from my house. So you go there. But basically like the outdoors, skiing, hiking.
That's what you want growing up.
That's what all the...
You want to be close enough to a city where you can get get that sort of city life, but also like to be close to nature.
Space.
And a bit of freedom, you know?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's one thing that I'm a bit worried about with my kid is that growing up in Milan in like in a flat. I mean, it's a nice flat, but it's still flat. And then, so like we have to get her out into nature all the time.
That's been tough this year, man.
Yeah. Well, I've used the excuse of being a photographer quite freely. It's like I have to go location scouting to the mountains.
I'm working.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I've been a bit luckier than most. But yeah, still it's a nightmare.
Like, I really appreciate it now. I think when you were like 13 and your dad drags you out of bed at like 5 in the morning to go winter hiking, you're like, fuck.
Oh my God. I don't want
shoveling
to
snow
do that.
or whatever.
Yeah. No, I miss shoveling snow, man. Like you guys, the Milan winter's bullshit. No
offense, of course.
But like, I got like, where I lived, if we got like 3 feet, if we got a meter of snow the night before, school would be delayed for 2 hours. Like we had to get like 6 feet of snow for them to think about canceling it for 1 day.
Snow day, and then go straight back to like organizing.
Yeah, but you're organized for that kind of stuff.
No, when we had that much snow, there was one year we had so much snow that we basically dug a Verdun World War I trench system all the way around the house, and the rule was like the driveway was a lake So you could only cross the driveway in front of the house on a sled.
Right.
And the rules, if you got a direct hit with a snowball, you had to go back to your base. But like one base was like the driveway was in the middle, and you had one base at one end of the driveway and one base at the other. So the bases were actually really close to each other. But to get to those bases, you had to go around all the way around the house. It was probably about 200 meters of yard and backyard and stuff. And the
Kids
rule was,
getting lost, like
if you got hit, you could like lay there and be rescued by a friend, or you had to go back to your base. So like, and sometimes
Scrolling
people wouldn't come and get you. Like you were way up ahead and you're like, yeah, I'm good. But you got killed in some little alcove of some shitty little dugout that we made in the back. And no one even knew you were there. So you're just like, you didn't want to go all the way back to the base, but no one was coming for you. No one's coming for you.
like real life. What were your things like?
We did one time. We made catapults and launched mud rock balls at each other.
Oh right,
With fishing rods,
sand clods.
Yeah.
Mud ball war.
We took mud balls. We made them hard in the sun.
Oh,
And then we
dried them out.
Yeah, completely. They were like rock hard.
South Africa's on a different level.
Yeah, and we would just throw them at each other.
They use that
was
shit
fun.
to make houses. Like
we
would sue each other.
we had broken fishing rods.
Only broken fishing rods. No
Well,
broken
of course
noses.
not. So we would use those for the catapult arms, so they were like super springy.
I remember my parents were not happy about that day.
No,
Like the whole garden wall was like just pock marks of just like
Mud.
mud.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yes.
What the fuck?
I like your parents.
Yeah.
My dad got in trouble a lot when he was a kid. Like they had like rocket engines, you know, these like Estes rockets.
Yeah,
Do you have
yeah.
rockets? They would like tape a ball bearing to one end of the engine, and then they would just shoot them horizontally. So like not in a nice pretty
Yeah.
rocket, just like. And then his friend got into chemistry and made, I don't know what it's called, something triiodide, which is a powder, and it reacts with itself. You know these pop rocks? You
Yeah,
can throw on the
yeah,
ground?
yeah.
It's that compound. But he made like a jar of it. And it reacts with itself, guys. Like that's why it works when you throw it on the ground.
Yeah.
Because it touches itself and it's like, oh, energy, bam. So he had a jar on the shelf in his basement, and like a truck went by their house, and like the whole basement exploded. Like blew the thing off the wall. This is like the people, and my dad's friend like burned his eyebrows off. So like this is where it's not my fault. I'm like this, okay? It's,
Yeah, but I mean that's the thing. It's you sort of we were when you grow in the frontier.
the frontier grows on you.
Exactly. That's sort of the things that you end up doing. Like I don't know.
Like I was
madness.
always fixated on, and still now I am, like in video games and stuff, like the damage that like you leave. Like I remember like Fable, the game Fable, like your character would grow and he would like have battle scars, and the more battles you lost, you would have like more scars and stuff. And I was like always fascinated by that. And like when I was a kid, I remember like we used to make these. I used to go to my friend's house. We all got into all this crazy kind of shit. Like it would either be Mortal Kombat or drawing on these big like A1 architecture pads that his mom would have, and we like create these battlegrounds because we were into Judge Dredd and Jurassic Park and all that shit, and they would like mix and match all these things, of course.
That's
and then
when
we started.
it's like you're constrained, but you're free.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh my god, like all this like super splatter, and we started doing like these. He got a BB gun at a certain point.
Oh god.
And we made these like plasticine men, but inside the plasticine men, we would make them hollow and put in food coloring.
Wow, this
Inside.
is next level.
And like when you shot the guy, you would see like the damage, and he would like bleed. I was like, oh shit! I've never seen that like done anywhere else. I wonder why.
That's been done
That's probably why.
I think normal people.
You were
would
like
do
you're like the house across the street in Toy Story.
Yeah. Weird things are happening.
Like, don't go over there. Save me!
But everybody, I don't know, all our friends were like kids that grew up on farms with dirt bikes and damage, you know, basically.
Yeah.
So you just rock up and just did as much damage as you could all the time.
Damage.
Play army, run around with guns. Then it always got out of hand because I'm not dead. What, you are dead, but I'm not dead. And then it's fight would break out or something, and it's like okay, or try to do like a zip line, you know.
But a homemade zip line.
Homemade zip lines. That was one of my favorite things to do ever. And every time it never like ever worked properly once. Like every time somebody was hurt.
But it could have.
It could have.
Because every time you made it, you were imagining.
You're learning
So what
every
if?
single time. But it's just we had no money. We needed to buy like a pulley once. That would have been
One
like
pulley
if
instead of
somebody
like-
came with a pulley, they would have been the god of the playground, you know. But we were like, no.
Simon got a pulley.
Even like the nerdy kid, like, show us what's in your lunchbox, and he has a pulley, and like, you're the king.
Oh my god! We tried using bike wheels.
Oh my gosh.
We tried using ball bearings. We tried everything.
Probably could have taken that down, recycled it, and bought
Yeah.
your fucking pulley.
Yeah, exactly.
But your kids,
knew how to
kids,
get
are,
it, like-
kids are extremely creative and extremely dumb.
At the
you
same
don't
time.
know. Recycling, breaking
Like if
down.
you told your dad, "Hey, Dad, I'm about to make an illegal homemade zip line, and I'm going to use a bike wheel and a saw blade because I can't afford a pulley," your dad would be like, "Whoa,
Well, hang on a second.
hang on, I got a pulley. I'm a cool dad."
Yeah.
But you didn't want to tell him because you're like, he'll be
course
pissed about the saw blade.
And then we can't even like try with the saw. Maybe the saw blade
bows
works.
and arrows with like those mini screwdrivers as the tips.
Oh right, yeah.
No, my parents were pretty,
Holy shit.
My parents were cool about the sword stuff. Like we made like there's a medieval reenactment organization in the US called the SCA. It's similar to it's in Europe now. Oh, I'll think of it later. I'll send you a link. But basically, it's MMA dressed in armor. You hit each other.
Okay.
And for like teenagers, they have like
I've seen that on YouTube.
yeah.
But like they really hit each other.
They really hit each other.
Yeah. Okay,
You're,
cool. I like that.
You're eliminated when you're on the ground.
Okay.
You just beat each other down.
Jeez.
But the SCA is the equivalent basically in the States. And then like if you're not fighting in the heavy armor with the bamboo weapons, in Europe they're using steel now, but in the US they're using bamboo. There's like the tier down for teenagers is like a plastic pipe wrapped in foam.
Mm-hmm.
You could still do a lot of pain.
Yeah.
With it. So my parents were like, yeah, rather than play video games, why don't we go to this medieval thing? I really liked it. And then I managed to recruit all my friends because if you haven't figured it out yet, we had like a group of friends and like, okay, we have to make a huge LAN party with like big ass TVs. Let's do it. We have to play Lego, explode the room. Let's do it. So we did this medieval stuff and they got us bow and arrows. My parents were like, yeah, you can buy bow and arrows. You can't shoot the bow and arrows at each other with the tips. But if you want to take tennis balls and tape them around the end of the arrows, then you can shoot them at each other, no problem. So we would have like, because some kids, some parents were weird. They didn't want their kids hitting other kids with the swords.
Yeah, they get it.
But their kid could shoot bow and arrow. Or we were like,
Like without the tennis balls.
well, we didn't really tell the parents that. We just told them that you can come play with us and we promise you won't hit anyone with a sword. And then mom was like, oh, okay. So they probably thought their kid was watching.
No one said anything about an axe.
Gave the kid the bow and arrow, and he was like picking people off. Yeah, they were cool. But yeah, we had like I don't know 6 arrows with tennis balls and like a 50-pound bow, and you just like flunk.
A 50-pound bow is really
Holy
quite.
shit. Dude,
Mine's 70 pounds with the field tips. It goes right through the bloody
the target.
the foam target. It's just like
Play for keeps, man.
Yeah, we used to like make those just because like Highlander, the series was pretty big back in the day.
That's all it.
And the
Home
one
from
kid
school.
that had the katana style was like the king.
Oh my gosh.
Because he had that Duncan MacLeod kind of thing.
no,
And you like, you had to like really
all
put in
those
work.
things. And MacGyver. How many times did we MacGyver each other like all over the
Yeah.
place? No, but that's
And all you need to do, like to play MacGyver, was have like a Swiss Army knife.
yeah.
That's all. Like you couldn't like make anything because they're too stupid.
You just
You just have like
a Swiss Army knife and a rubber band and a
That's
hair
it.
comb.
Yeah,
I'm
and some-
MacGyver.
and some wire maybe.
And no, it never went any further. Then when I was like, Renee, oh really? You have those things? What could you make?
I can
Anything.
I'm MacGyver.
I just
I
don't
can
want
get
to
out
do
of
it.
rope as long as my hands are free.
Whoops.
Sick. But then you went to West Point.
I did.
So you got was that a choice?
I got drafted. No, you can't get drafted.
No, not drafted. Dragged. I mean, I was about.
No, it was a personal choice. So I said my parents had their home business. It didn't work out. They had a secretary actually embezzle a lot of stuff, and they went under. And in the U.S., unlike in Europe, school costs a lot of money, a lot. So that happened when I was in about 10th grade, and the same time 9/11 happened. And I definitely think I got caught up in sort of the rah-rah around 9/11 and stuff. So West Point's super hard to get into.
That was 16, right? 10th grade.
Yeah, I was about
Yeah.
16.
Okay.
Super hard to get into. I mean, you basically don't get in. And you have to do a lot of applications. You have to get nominated by a senator or a congressman. It's just really hard.
Oh shit. Okay.
But my dad,
unless you've played swag your whole life,
unless
like
you played
super
swag,
like
then it's you just call
genius,
up.
like strategic genius.
So, I mean, basically it's a big process. You basically have to start at least when you're 16, if not earlier, to get all your ducks in a row, because they want to see that you did sports. They want to see that you're good at school. They want to see you do extracurricular activities. So I was like, okay, I want to at least try to get in. And my mom was a little bit hesitant. And my dad was like, cool, go for it. Like, it's tough. And if not, like, you can always go to a normal university. So I basically did all the application stuff. And at the end of the day, I got accepted. And then I had a long talk with my dad, because my parents are kind of, I would say, on the center to center left of the political spectrum. They're not necessarily anti-war or anything like that, but they're not like war hawks either. They're not like generation. My dad was in the Navy, but more because the Navy paid for him to go to medical school. And then he got deployed actually to an Indian reservation in Montana, because the Navy, for some reason at the time, was responsible for also the health care that the U.S. government provides on Indian reservations.
Wow.
So, but he only did it because they paid the bills for the school.
Yeah, there weren't many wars. And
yeah. It's not like, I mean, there's some people at West Point where you have like fifth generation. Like, my family's always been in the Army. So I'm not coming from that background. It was more like personal challenge. I was interested in the discourse around 9/11. And I got accepted. And my dad was like, look, if you don't go, you're going to regret it. You're always going to wonder. So at least go.
Just give it a shot.
Give it a shot. Give it your best. And then he gave me a lot of good advice. He was like, the first year is going to suck. And you can look it up. The first year is really bad. It's a very big class system. So the first year students are at the bottom of the hierarchy. They're called plebs.
Yeah.
Just like Romans. And they aren't, I'm not saying they're hazed, but like life's not good for you, which is also a really big contrast when you take the type of people who were able to qualify to get into West Point, who had like to be star athletes, blah, blah, blah. They had to be valedictorians, and now you take all these like 1,000 people from around the U.S. and you're like, now you're nothing. Don't talk outside your room. Like, you can't talk outside your room for a year. I don't know how it is now, but like it was a tough year, and you were responsible for laundry and all kinds of things. So my dad was like, look, it's going to suck that first year, and you should never make a decision, like a life-altering decision, when things are really bad, because you'll just make that decision to get out of whatever you're in. Like, that's how humans are. And then he's like, at least get through the second year, because then you'll have experienced, like, you get through the first year, you're fine. When you get through the second year, then you'll be in a position where you can like objectively make a decision. So that was like the only really like heart-to-heart I had with him about the situation. But they were supportive of me going. And then when I decided it wasn't what I wanted to do anymore, my mom was ironically, my mom was more nervous about me going and then was more upset when I left. But my dad was like, well, again, we had a heart-to-heart, like the geopolitical situation changed. And when I got to West Point, I started reading about Afghanistan. And then we went into Iraq. And then I started reading about like, what are we doing? What are we doing in Iraq? And then, I mean, at the end of the day, you graduate from West Point, you're responsible for 40 people for a platoon-sized element. And if somebody gets killed on your watch, like, that's on you. And you have to be able to lead those people with the conviction that you're risking their lives for something.
Yeah, that you're doing the right thing.
You're doing the right thing. And so at the end of the second year, I was like, I can't personally believe that. I understand the theory behind it. I understand what the school accomplishes, and I think that's important. But I didn't want to bear that personal cost. So I left. But at the same time, like, I have a lot of good friends. Some are no longer alive. They've been killed in various ways. And since leaving West Point, I've just tried to not be the person who like goes back to his hometown and just, settles for a community college. And it's like, oh, I tried a big thing in my life and it didn't work. And I settle for, whatever this is. So I just tried to keep what I learned and keep those friendships and understand that there are people out there making sacrifices. Whether I agree with how their lives are spent is mute. Yeah. Point is that they're out there believing in these things.
They believe it, and they can choose what to do with their life.
Yeah. But they're also, in a way, protecting sort of, let's say, Western freedoms and Western schools of thought. And we could have a whole other debate about that. But I think there's certain values that we all share and certain things that we've been able to accomplish as a civilization. And I think defending those is good. Maybe not imposing them on others is another discussion. So I just tried to like do right by the fact that I had this amazing opportunity. It taught me a lot about myself, taught me a lot of discipline, taught me a lot of creativity, because there's an inspection called a SAMI inspection, a Saturday morning inspection, and your room has to be spotless, like every horizontal surface. I mean, look around this room. What do you think for horizontal surfaces?
Everything.
I mean, everything. Like they'll come in your room with a white glove and they'll go on like the fire extinguisher thing that pokes out of the ceiling. So you think you got everything, and they're like, "Oh, you failed." So it's really, really a brutal thing. But they had this thing that if you got spirit points, so if you did stupid things like hang flags or steal mascots or do pranks, you can only do that when you're a first year student, because you're treated like shit, but you're also like, you're too dumb to know any better.
Right.
So if you did enough spirit points and you had the most in the whole school, your company would get out of the SAMI at the end of the year. So I was like, fuck yeah. I will work my ass off. I will risk my life to not have to goddamn clean every horizontal, because they're like secret shit, like under the sink. There's a little piece of wood that you don't know about.
The welded point underneath the bed that's holding the shit up together.
You don't think of that. You've been to school like 6 months. You don't know, and they're like, oh, you failed, and then you're in SAMI conditions for like a week. So I worked super hard. We stole all the doormats in the whole school, and we just lined out our company area. So our entire like troop of 120 people was just standing on West Point doormats. We stole like 8 or 9 mascots from other companies. We hung banners, but we didn't hang them like from our window. I went up on the top of our building and threw a rope off. Then I went up on top of the mess hall. I climbed across this like super narrow parapet that's like this wide, and it was like 7 stories down on one side. Crammed across with another rope, tied it to the other building. So we hung a banner like all the way across like the public piazza. Everyone else had like a little flag hanging out of their window, and we had like this huge thing. We did all kinds of shit, but at the end we pied people in the face. So like every Thursday
in uniforms.
Every Thursday there's a cake day, and you could go to upperclassmen and you have to make them sing this song. He's like, do the rocket, and they're forced to do the rocket. They can't decline if there's like 10 plebes saying do the rocket. So we would get this thing going where we would get them like to do the rocket, and then we would push a food cart behind them, and I would climb up on the food cart and smash the pie in their face right at the end of the song. So we did that to our platoon leader, and he was pissed, but he was like, it's okay. Do it to the company commander. I was like, okay. So the next Thursday we did the company commander, and he was pissed, but he was like, do that to the battalion commander. And every time we did that, we got points, and we worked our way all the way up to like they pied like the top cadet in the school in the face with a pie. So at the end of the year, we had like so many points more than anybody else that we had like a regular, it's called AMI inspection. You still have to have a clean room, but it's just like, is your bed made? Is your books are in the right order? Like you don't have this like creeper with white gloves coming in your
creeper.
Madness.
There's like a movie in there somewhere. Just on the pranks from like
just
the West Point.
Pranks, yeah. I mean, it's a really prestigious institution. I don't want to make it like degraded. It's really hard, but at the same time, you have like really top performing people in a super stressful environment. You have to find ways for them to like
let off some steam. They figured it out. I mean, that's the thing. Like the military is often seen as this thing which is like very rigid and doesn't understand like humans. You know, but it actually, it's probably the place where they're most understood, like in so many things. Like they know like how to break you, how to make you. Sure. They understand like everything very well. Whether they care or not, that's a different story. Like maybe West Point, they care more because they're building leaders. Of money. Yeah, exactly. Whereas maybe in like a normal platoon where somebody signs up, comes in, maybe they don't give a shit because you're a basic cannon fodder, you know, in a way. So, but they know exactly what they're doing, like all the way through.
Yeah. Well, like, sometimes.
All the way through.
I mean, like how to like mess with your head and stuff like that, you know, how to get the person out. But like I also had, I had an idea because our dad was carabiniere and he was horseback police, and he was like, I was like, Dad, I want to be a photographer. He's like, no. It might be a better idea if you join the military in Italy because, again, like South Africa, the job situation wasn't amazing, especially if you're a white male. In like 98, it was like a lot of BEE going along with like black empowerment opportunities that, you know, people our age just wouldn't get. So like either you had shitloads of money and you went to like the best schools and like made it, you know, all the way to the top, or you figured something out. So he was like, you know what? There's this military academy in Modena. You go there, you study university there, and then you can specialize in whatever armed forces you want to go into and whatever. So I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I found out that the Carabinieri, they do like, they study like art, because there's the whole wing that just deals with art theft.
Sure.
So you could be like an art specialist, or you could be like a forensic specialist or whatever. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. I'll do that. So I went to the school to check it out. And they're like, dude, no. With your level of studies, like from South African high school, you won't even start. You'd have to do I had to do 2 more years of liceo, like here, high school here.
Just to be able
to start.
Really?
Because the curriculum is totally different. And the way like maths in Italy is done, like a part of it is done orally. In South Africa, it's all written down. You got a test, you look at your thing, and you get it done. Whereas there, you have to go up on a board and you have to write down.
No, this is the West Point style. It's called the Thayer method. Basically, you have to teach yourself the lesson.
Yeah.
The night before, you have to do the homework online that gets graded, and then you go into the lesson and you have boards, and everyone has to present their, at least for math and sciences.
Yeah.
They tell like, okay, René, put problem 14 on the board or whatever. And you have to put the problem that you worked out. And then after you have like taught yourself, done graded homework, and presented your work, then they teach the lesson on the stuff. And the idea here is that you become self-motivated to teach yourself. You're okay presenting your work. Like you can defend your argument, even if it's just a simple math problem. At least you start defending it. And then you're also humble enough to be like, you're a fucking idiot and you got it wrong. So let's talk about what you did wrong.
Right.
But this is like the Thayer method. I mean, if you Google or you Wikipedia,
I reckon it's a much more interesting way of working out, because obviously, like if it's just written down, I mean, they did check out all your working through, but it was still like super easy. But they were just like, nah, dude. Also,
even try.
We do 6 subjects in South Africa.
That's it.
You do English, a second language, and then 4 like chosen subjects. So it's like maths, biology, I did math, science, history, and geography. That's it.
That sounds like one semester at West Point.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about of course. West Point is high school.
But I mean, also in high school, we were probably taking. I don't know about the South African.
The education system isn't that great, I don't think. Like compared to like what I've seen in Europe, where you do like, but then inside that, you like, so if you do history, you do philosophy. So it's like 2 things together.
So you get.
If you do geography, you do natural sciences.
Okay.
As well as everything else. So it's like a big... there's
a split inside.
There's a split inside. Okay. So you go in depth into the thing. So
it's not just like this.
It's not like this is a map and this is so you would be like calculating how much water goes through a river or something. Mm-hmm. That kind of stuff. Then physics and so science would be physics and chemistry together. So that's another 2 subjects. So probably at the end of the day, you're more or less the same at the end of the thing, but still
you gloss over like the main principles basically.
Yeah.
Like the main points,
because we don't have like.
It's really hard for me, as it was.
Yeah, but it's right. But then it's like because like here you decide your job basically at 14. Like you decide which liceo you want to go to.
Here in Italy, it's really, you decide so young. Also, like the thing is I found, also it's about starting a business or something. Like I've studied English literature. I mean, I studied at West Point and it was super broad because they make you study, no matter if you study like the most liberal basket weaving subject, you will still graduate with a minor in engineering because they force you to take so much engineering and they force you to pick an engineering minor. So even if you studied philosophy or literature, anyway, you're getting math and science like beat over the head. Like the chemistry, everyone in the school has to make gunpowder and they test you on how well your gunpowder are. But like I left West Point and I went to normal school, which was ridiculously easy by comparison. And then you like, just because you had free time, like you have no free time at West Point. You're like, or you're sleeping.
You're too busy stealing.
If you're supposed to be sleeping, but you're stealing mascots. But you went like normal university and I wanted to take 5 courses and they made me sign a waiver that like if I started to get depressed or overwhelmed, I would immediately drop the course. And I was like, why? I was taking like 6 per semester. Back there, like, no, it's very important that you don't overstress yourself. I was like, but these courses are like 4 courses for the semester, but they're split over like 3 days. and also I don't have to like take sports, and I don't have to march around after school, and I don't have to wake up.
Yeah,
like,
this is gonna be easy.
sign the document. So whatever.
Okay, cool.
I did like English literature, and then I went to Sweden and I did anthropology. I studied Iraqi war refugees to sort of complete the loop that I started at West Point, like just to close a circle. I actually met people in Sweden who had met soldiers who trained me at West Point. They were in the same street in Baghdad. And like one of them, when I met them at West Point, they had just come back from Iraq. And then when I met this like teenager in Stockholm, he had footage of that unit on his street in Iraq. Like, it's all connected, man. All but I studied these things, like anthropology, English. But in America, this doesn't act as a barrier to what you want to do. You know? Unless you want to be like a doctor.
Yeah,
it's not a career determinant. You come to Italy and people are like, okay, at 14, I'm going to pick like this high school track because that's what I'm going to do in life.
Yeah.
Man,
I don't even know what you
I'm
want to
35. I don't even know what I want to do yet.
Yeah. It's a tough one. And I think it's really heavy here. They have the weekends are pretty busy as well.
Yeah.
They've got shitloads of homework.
Yeah.
It's a weird system. I think it's one of those systems that was designed to like keep the parents as free as possible of their children so that they could produce, you know?
Just keep making farming babies.
Yeah, whatever you're doing, just work, just do something, and just like Saturday morning, kids go to school.
They still go to school.
Well, a lot of them do. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them do.
Half day. Yeah.
Yeah, at least a half day, because then those parents can work. Otherwise, like that's the only reason I can think of that.
Italy, why?
Why, dude? Why?
Let's invite Italy to the podcast.
Yeah, we should.
Italy has entered the chat.
It would be nice if they could.
Buongiorno. Hey, wait, pizza mafia mandolino.
In the meantime, Italy's watching Sanremo right now. Going
exactly.
Yes.
They're all into it.
Weird. They are. They all assume that they're not into it, and then as soon as it starts,
I don't like Sanremo. I don't like songs by old people.
or young people singing old people's songs.
Young people singing old people's songs reviewed by old people.
It's like a sect.
Amazing. It's beautiful.
They might be up here like watching it right now because there's like a whole.
There's a commune up here.
There's like a commune.
Yeah.
It's like a creative, artistic like collective that started doing stuff. Then do like these Sanremo experiences.
We're gonna have ASMR here.
Sick.
No.
Yeah, man. But yeah, I mean, I can kind of see like why I'm connecting a lot of dots now. Like, because you had like the discipline.
The math guy, the math meme.
It's like we started here and now we came here and now we're going back there. It's like one thing that's like ricorrente, a recurring factor in everything you've said and everything you're doing, and like also with the zero latency thing is like the whole like the discipline is very high, and it was before you went to West Point. Like the discipline to create every single like little icon.
Use the scanner.
Yeah, use the scanner.
It's like
300 Playmobil.
Like I would never have done that as a kid. I would have like scanned like maybe 3, like just enough to get me by. Yeah. I'm like the crack addict of kids. Like it just give me like how many games can I have? Like 1. Okay, just give me the one game that can like satisfy me for like enough. And you'd be like, okay, no, I'm gonna like bring this to my one friend who can like kind of program it, and we can have like 16 different games. It's like, okay, cool. So it's like, yeah, organization and discipline is like really recurring.
Yeah, what I've seen is the organization. It's like, okay, so we're going to call the guy. He's going to come with a truck. And the guy with the truck is going to bring a guy with a
TV.
And then the TV is going to come with a thing.
Like, we're going to play Halo for 2 hours before we get kicked out, before like, you have to be back in bed.
No.
It's awesome. But yeah, that's how you got to do. But that's also a recurring theme with our guests. Like it's part of creativity is having a sort of a bit of a drive and a bit of everybody's creative, in my opinion. Sure. Like everybody has a way of thinking things through. But the thing that transforms a creative into a successful creative is when you actually put it into action. And you drive through all that shit that is at the first year of West Point and the first year of any job, any business. You're just going to eat shit for like the whole year, maybe more. But then at the end of the day, you're going to come out on the other side and hopefully you'll have grown, you'll have learned more about yourself and also have figured out where you can push yourself, you know? And then that's when you actually start doing what you're doing, you know? And that's when you can start thinking about opening the business, making it work. And I'm really interested about that little box. Like that's going to be a game changer. I think.
I'm hoping we finally this is the year we launch it.
Yeah.
But I would say I think you're right when you say like thinking about what my dad said, like don't quit when it sucks. I've used that like lots of times in life. Like if you quit when it sucks, you're just quitting because it sucks. And I say, okay, unless you're in an industry or a situation where like you're being sexually harassed or someone's like there's definitely a red line. And I think we can all kind of, if it's you're quitting for like a moral reason or you're quitting just because you're getting tired, your teeth kicked in, And I think the problem is if you quit when you're tired and your teeth are kicked in, then the next time you do anything and you arrive to that same point where you quit, you'd never have gone beyond that. So you're like, this is my limit. But that's not really your limit. Like you could keep going. You should get through the thing. If it's not going to kill you and it's not like going to permanently scar you or call you trauma or, sorry, I'm on my mic wire. Then get through it and then sit back and breathe. And maybe you'll have a scar but you'll have actually learned and experienced something and you'll actually have moved your limit from here to here. If you got to here and the experience, maybe it ends here, just keep going. And I think especially because I have this sort of 50-50 split between being creative and being super disciplined and organized. So it's easier for me to just like close off. I think the creative side of humans suffer when we're in suffering. And it wilts sort of like a flower. I think if you are more to that side of the spectrum, then getting through tough things, like if you're trying to start a company and you like the bureaucracy is just too heavy, I think that probably weighs on you much more. I see that as like a necessary evil and it sucks, but I'm just going to not think about it. I'm just going to execute it. Just like fill out the fucking form, send the fucking form, pay the boletes, pay the stamps, whatever. Just don't think, just get through it. Because once you get through it, now I can decide like what's the next steps.
Yeah.
If you just get overwhelmed and then you'll get frustrated and you'll also be afraid to try again.
Yeah, or else there's the other side where you sort of put that thing to the side, and like don't actually do it. It's like, this is all bullshit, and I don't do that, any of that stuff, and you just go in your own way because you're like a creative genius. And then the first time that like the taxman comes along or, someone breaks a leg in your studio or something, then you're completely fucked and your whole life is going to go down the toilet basically because you didn't get your shit together.
Oh, insurance.
Insurance
is fucking boring, guys.
Dude,
I know
worst.
it, but like you want that because the risk
you have to have it. And then there's something strangely satisfying about getting paperwork done.
I agree.
Once it's done.
When it's done.
Once it's done.
Like once it's done and it's like the last one, you're like, I don't have to do this anymore. Oh my God. I can actually go outside now and
we had
chill.
The stuff from Zero Latency came from Australia about a week ago. So we already had like a crunch to get the Dogana paperwork in. Like for the customs, if you're not Italian, Dogana is customs. Because we wanted all this stuff to clear customs because we paid a lot of money for it. And if it sits in customs because it gets held up in customs, you have to pay the airport the holding fees every day that your pallets are sitting there. So we were like, okay, we had the custom stuff sorted. And then like 4 days, the stuff was already like in the air from Australia. And it came out that we needed to be registered with some battery consortium because we were importing batteries. And we were also had to be registered with the environmental consortium. And these two new laws just came into effect January of this year. So there's nobody even in Italy that knows how they work. The platforms aren't set up actually for people like us who aren't going to be selling the batteries. We're just using the batteries. I'm not like selling you Zero Latency equipment. So the actual platforms aren't set up for people who are just importing for use. They're set up for importing. Like I'm going to sell 2,000 computers this year. So even the platforms weren't set up. So even the commercialista couldn't help us, but we only had like 3 days to do it. And I didn't even know about the second one. So I executed the first one. I said a lot of bad words, but I got through it. Like, you're allowed to swear. You should Google like the effects of swearing if you're a person who doesn't like to swear. Like there's actually correlations between swearing and intelligence and swearing and stress relief. It can help you. So it can get you through the hard times. So
it gets me all the time.
Just got through the first one. It took 48 extremely painful hours, but I got through it. And I was like, And then they emailed me back and like, oh, by the way, you also need to do the environmental form, which was it was like two government agencies with exactly the same website. The color changed from like brown branding to a blue branding. but the actual forms were the same. The payment was the same. Like I paid the same stupid €200 tax to the same address in Rome. Like it's part of it's a scam.
Yeah, it is. Of
I
course
want my dream to happen. And then my dream can't happen if my shit is locked up at customs or blocked.
Yeah.
That's my creative end.
If you're spending thousands and thousands in just airport taxes because the thing is just sitting there, they put you under like even before you start.
Yeah, which is what Italy is basically designed to do.
Yeah, and it's perfectly designed for that. Like to actually like draw out the blood from people, it's perfectly designed for that.
Let me just text the missus real quick.
Yeah, man.
I was going to say the other thing we should talk about if you're really creative and you're in a trouble is teams. Hold on. So I did an MBA. So because I studied, that's the thing. I got to Italy. I'd studied English and anthropology. Like, I had a master's. So if I went back to the US, I wanted to do whatever. Basically, you could figure out. You could talk your way in. The way we approach jobs is much less. What have you been doing since you were 14?
Right. Yeah.
But in Italy, that wasn't working. So maybe the second time we tried to start the paintball field, it failed, and I needed a job. And I had been doing like bike tours. Like I was a bicycle guide for a bike startup here. And because I've obviously may have figured out I like history, so I went around, I memorized everything about Milan, and I was just killing it on the bikes. But I wasn't my wife also wanted to have a life. So I applied to MIP, Polytechnico, to do an MBA. And I also got contacted by my former employer and René's employer, Viacom. And basically, I got accepted to the MBA, and I got the job offer from Viacom the same week. So I was like, shit, what am I going to do? Because the MBA was a full-time. And luckily, Polytechnico was really cool. I talked to them, and I was like, look, I got this job offer. I can't look a gift horse in the mouth. Like, income is income. I've been riding bikes for 2 years. I got to And MIP they have a part-time program. So like, it's cool. We have the next part-time intake in like 9 months. So if you want to wait, you could do the part-time MBA. And I talked to Viacom and I was like, look, I have this offer to do this MBA and I really want to do it. So can we work out something where I think it was like one Friday a month. I had to not be there because I had to go to class. And they were cool with it. So basically for 2 years, I worked like a full day work day. And then I had the MBA that I was doing at night, which was really hard. Like, don't get me wrong. It put some stress on my marriage, put just stress on my life because you're also doing like, but the West Point stuff helped because if you're doing a part-time MBA, you're not going to class every day. You're going to class like once a month. So you have to like auto-teach yourself. So in that way, I was sort of already set up to do that. Like I can handle, like I can hack this. I got through that first year at West Point. I can get through anything in my life. But then during the MBA, I mean, at Polytechnico, I was like the only guy who studied humanities. Maybe there was one other person there who studied journalism, but like 65% of everyone was engineers. Then you got your economists and you got your scientists. And then I was like, oh yeah, I studied anthropology. And I'm like, I was that weirdo back there. But I think what I learned from this is like engineers, they're super organized. I'm not saying they're less creative. They're creative. Maybe they have an approach. They have a more systematic approach to things. Their creativity is systematic versus sort of like the more
free,
spontaneous.
Yeah, they apply their rules in a creative fashion. I think that's how they do it. You know, maybe they figure out that this triangle will work in this way rather than that way. It'll give us like 15%.
It has to be a triangle though.
Or whatever. You know, I just said a thing.
No, but I'm just saying it's like they don't maybe like go too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a triangle. The triangle just used differently.
Yeah, their boundaries are maybe more confined.
Yeah.
But if you can get, the thing is, but maybe they're not good at communicating. Maybe they suck at talking because they're just living in their head and they're living in their rivets and their systems, which they're really good at. But then maybe you have other people who have like, I'm coming from this anthropology background where like I did the military and then I went and I lived in a ghetto with Iraqi refugees as an American quasi ex-soldier. And like there were people there who wouldn't even talk to me because they thought it was CIA because there's a really bad relationship between CIA, black money funding anthropology projects in Vietnam. Like, so like, why don't you talk to me? Like, you work for the CIA. So then I had to like check myself and go back and read the history of anthropology and the US government. And it's a mess. So I get it. But I've had to deal with a lot of people. So I can say this, like, especially with the zero latency thing, I've found a really good team of people who are very specialized in different things. And maybe I have I'm a generalist. They are all specialists. So we have like the engineer, the legal expert, the architect, the economist. So they know their shit. And if you are maybe a person who's like very, very creative and you don't want to deal with all the legalities and stuff, if you could find someone else who's maybe interested in what you do, but has specialties and doesn't mind. Some people love Excel.
Yeah. No, there are people that do that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I use Excel for like personal stuff. I really like it. I hate it for like work stuff. Like I want to vomit, but then if I use it for my own, there are people out there, trust me, they love Excel. They like talking to people. They even like enjoy, as René was saying, I love like the feeling of getting paperwork done. There's probably people out there who
get off on that.
So if you could like branch out a little bit and maybe you find someone their personality is completely different than yours. You're like, why would I ever associate with this person? That could be the person that helps you, especially in Italy. Like try to find the person that's almost your opposite.
Yeah.
But maybe they're interested in the same thing at a meta level. Maybe it's music or it's art or photography or film. I mean, it's not like notiles don't watch movies. You know?
Yeah.
So if you can find people like that, you can put together an organization where you're able to like offload stuff. And you can, and I would say just be honest with these people. So René comes to me like, Ben, I fucking hate online forums. I can't do it. It's a pain point for me. And I suffer we all suffer doing it. But maybe René suffers 3 times more because of his personality. But maybe I suffer like a third as much because whatever, I've had to do it before. So for me, like we both agree that it sucks. And we could both agree that it sucks 1. But for you, it sucks 3. So I'll do that for you, buddy. I don't mind. And then like later on, like I have to design a logo or something and I am shit at it. So maybe I come to you and like, yo, René, can you help me with this logo? And if you can build networks like this, so you're not just like all the creative designer guys hanging out together, because then you're sort of almost making a little bubble around yourself and you're not bringing in skills or knowledge that can facilitate that group, like doing other things.
Yeah.
Or one of you will have to specialize. I mean, that's the other thing. But
so in the end, basically, you got your battalion.
I got my little team,
you
my
got
specialists.
It's not a question of life or death of people, but it's like a question of life or death of your
business.
dream.
Yeah.
So it's like in the end, like full circle once again. I mean,
yeah, you always need a team in there. Like, I mean, even like with an agent, I've got an agent. Like for me, he takes all the shit. Basically, he's like my lightning rod. So like,
he's like your whale.
Yeah,
it's like your whale.
Exactly.
Just run it
back around.
Where we're going onto the shore. No, don't go there. Just take this lightning bolt.
So that's his job. His job is just like being an umbrella for me and just like getting all the shit. And I can just be like an artist, be like all the fun and shit. And you're free to create. But there are people that don't understand that relationship. They're like, why are you giving 25% to a person who's doing shit? I'm like, dude, that
for the mental peace of mind that also
amazing.
Like allows me to make even better art. Because if I had to do 100% of the shit, my art would be like 30%.
Of course. Like, I mean, like if you have to do everything yourself and you have to invoice and you have to check on the contracts and you have to talk to clients and you have to sell yourself and
now
you have to do all the promotion stuff, it's like, when are you going to actually take a picture?
On Friday, end of the week, when you're exhausted.
Maybe.
And then the model's having a bad day.
Exactly.
So you just like, fuck it.
So you just forget about it and you just go make pizzas.
Yeah.
So that's like, it's so important to have good people around you that you know, with the same values.
Yeah.
Nothing else, you know.
I would say also don't be afraid to ask for what you're worth.
Yeah.
Right. If you can feel one of those core things, like don't be an extortionist, but don't do it for free. And also don't be afraid to pay, because as you're saying, if you had to do all of that back end stuff, I'm going to be an artist, but like, okay, your notaio, your taxes, your declarazione di redditi, your insurance, you have nothing left. That's like 10 months of your year done. So you have 2 months to make revenue on all the other stuff you had to do. So if you can pay someone to free up that time, then just be smart about it, but you should do it.
Yeah, and you got to pay people properly as well.
Yeah,
like that's another thing that doesn't happen. Yeah, it's like everyone wants to just skimp on everything. So that's my way of when I do a budget, I never like tell people how much I have for them. I'm always like, tell me how much you would do this job for to the best of your abilities. And then I'll tell you if I can afford you or not. That's the only way we're going to make this happen. You know? And so often because we're in Italy, people like so heavily underestimate themselves that like what I wrote down is like way higher. So I'm like, dude, I'm actually going to give you a bit more money than what you're asking me for, and I'm still going to make some money off you. But you got to like raise your prices, goddammit, because it's like
it's been a race to the bottom.
Incredible, like how low people go in this country.
It's because people are desperate.
Yeah. But
there's also lack of financial education.
And nobody talks to each other about how much they make or anything.
Yeah, it's all a big secret.
Super
Are you crazy?
rude.
Yeah.
Are you crazy?
I was like, no. You got to talk about that shit, and you got to say like, well, I took that job for like $100 because I didn't know what else to do that day, and then and be shat on by your colleagues and be like, dude, you can't, just rather stay home for $100.
$100 is like chill.
Yeah, it's like you can't do that. Just stay home, do nothing. They'll find somebody else. But at least it'll be somebody that's like, might fuck the job up, rather than someone that's really good, that comes for nothing. Anyway, so what's the plan now? What's going forward? You're playing in April, you said, for Zero Latency.
For Zero Latency, yeah.
Yeah.
We never got into the esports thing.
Oh, right. Yeah, we didn't. We just get into that for a little bit because
We got a couple minutes.
Yeah. If you got time.
I got time. My wife's going to be already angry, so it's fine, guys.
Oh, no. All our wives are angry.
There's still some messages.
So, I mean, I worked with René at Viacom for a couple of years. And then I wanted to start this basically the third attempt at this like technological paintball field. So I left Viacom and we tried. As I said, it didn't work out. So I was sort of in this space where I had, basically, Italy has this thing where like you're crazy if you leave a job and you don't have another job. And I would agree in some cases, yes. But I had just done the MBA and there wasn't really a growth opportunity for me there anyway. And I wanted to take a risk. Like, don't be afraid to take risks, especially when you're young. Like now I'm 35 with a kid. I'm more risk averse. But like I think your 20s should just be like risks. Just do it. And I don't mean like jump off bridges and do stupid things. I mean like find smart people, take smart risks. So I did it. I left. The thing didn't work out. But then I was sort of in this like free space where like, okay, what am I going to do? This is a Zero Latency thing. We were sort of in early talks with them, but nothing was solid. And I had actually, through the MBA, went to meet this guy who works in esports. And so I emailed him because I saw a job at Ubisoft. So I emailed this guy because he said if I ever needed a letter of recommendation, he'd write one for me. So I was like, hey, I want to do this Ubisoft job. I know you're like connected there. Could you write me a letter of recommendation? He's like, sure, I'll write you a letter of recommendation, but you have to come in and interview with us too. So I was like, okay. So I don't even know if he ever wrote the letter of recommendation. So I went in and interviewed, and basically it was like a sort of a nebulous role. They didn't even have like, this is exactly what we want you to do. They were just expanding and they wanted quality people, I guess. So they offered me this role. It's Pro-gaming Italia, and they also are the representatives for ESL. So ESL is like the largest esports brand in the world, and they have exclusive rights. PGI has exclusive rights to represent ESL in Italy, Switzerland, and Austria. So they run ESL national championships and ESL products, in addition to the other stuff that Pro Gaming does, sort of white label esports projects for, I don't know, Open Fiber or Tim Games or the football, FiGC, these kinds of things. So I explained to them that I was already in talks with Zero Latency. And I just promised them to keep them appraised how things went along. But they were still cool with me joining. So I joined March 1st of last year. I went to Bolzano. I got my laptop. I got trained. I met some people. And like by the time I got back to Milan, we went into lockdown. So I have worked the entire year till now, remotely. The Milan office, I went one time for an interview, and one time, like before I got the job, and one time to get a monitor when we went to work from home. They were like, we're shutting down the office here, so come get some stuff so you can have a work from home setup. So that's it, the entire thing. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's a really small team, but there again, you have like a team. So you have people who are project managers who are really precise, and they track fatture and our receipts, and they track these things. We also have creative people who are doing all the assets, for every campaign, like social media campaigns, online websites, graphics, animations, because we broadcast everything on Twitch. So it's TV production basically.
Yeah, basically.
And then we had challenges this year with COVID, so we also had to everyone had to learn how to do like cloud-based production solutions and deal with this. But now it's been 1 year, and not like I've met people because I'm personally responsible for the Swiss National Championship. So that we're in the 5th season now. It starts next week. So I do a lot of coordination with. We have a tiny studio in Bern, where we produce the content there, and I do Swisscom's our major client there. So I talk with
telecommunication companies basically that do like a lot of the sponsorship.
I mean, they've got the money, right?
Yeah.
And they can also make a direct correlation between their product and what you're seeing. So I don't know, your fast internet or your computer monitor. So yeah, you're looking at TIM, Vodafone, Samsung, Open Fiber, car companies like Mercedes, Red Bull, HP, Intel, Omen, classic like
graphic card companies like Nvidia and all that.
Exactly. But then we also get like some strange ones, like I don't know. We had some requests from like food and beverage, or because we've got a lot. I mean, everybody went online, especially in Italy. Like there's 17 million gamers in Italy. Like I can send you some links to IDEA and ASV. These are like research institutions in Italy. There's 17 million gamers, and that was before the pandemic. So,
do you think that number's like doubled?
It's huge now. Yeah. I can't give you exact numbers, but I can tell you like last April, we were looking at a 300% year on year on users between April of 2019 and April, and that was 1 month into the pandemic. Yeah. And then you have things like Call of Duty that came out.
Yeah, I saw it on the phone as well. Like a lot of people that maybe didn't buy consoles and they're just playing it on the phone.
Yep.
So it's rad. I mean, I saw it with my my group of friends. I mean, they're all like gamers as far as
everyone's a gamer.
Everyone's a gamer, right? But nobody had like I'd say 30% of them had consoles at home. Mm-hmm. Or at least like new generation consoles. As soon as the pandemic hit, they all bought them. I think I'm the only one that didn't buy a console because my wife would shoot me in the head.
Because you have a kid.
Yeah.
She is the console.
She said, yeah, exactly. If you want to flick something, flick me.
My wife was cruel. She like got me the PS5 and then we had the kid. So like just sitting there collecting dust. The last game I loaded up Red Dead Redemption. I got a friend in Sweden. He works for DICE. He designs the Battlefield games. So I got a copy of Battlefield 5, like the World War II one. That was cool. And then I went out and I splurged on Red Dead Redemption and I loaded it up and I played through the tutorial and my baby was born. That's it. Like
in the game, you got like a notification in the game.
The game just shut off. It was like, you died. Wasted.
Wasted. No more. Restart.
Game over.
Put it away.
Dude, that's like a whole different world. That's like a whole life.
It's over.
Like Red Dead Redemption is a whole life.
It's like I was like, asked my friends,
crazy.
I was like, I gotta get through this. He's like, dude, I'm at like 75 hours and I'm not even close to being done. And I was like, I can only play 10 minutes a week.
It's not even like the load time.
That's pretty much why I stopped. I had a bad, I think about a year when I was playing when World of Warcraft came out.
Oh boy!
And I got sucked into that big time, and I was still assisting, and that set me back at least a year on my actual career course.
On your life.
Yeah.
It eats your time.
It eats all your spare time. So instead of thinking of my shit, I was like, oh, I gotta, and I was never invested into it enough to like become like really like leveled up and all that kind of stuff. I was just playing for fun, and it's like, okay, when I can go on, I go on. Whereas like my friends that were like into it, they were like fucking into it, getting raids and all that kind of shit.
Going to weddings online.
Yeah,
shit,
exactly. Right? So I was never like fully invested, but it was sucking out from my time to screw me over in real life. So then I was like, okay, that's it, no more.
Just everything's World of Warcraft now.
Yeah, exactly. I just stopped because that's me. I'm addicted.
That's why I divorced and I sold my child.
You just need a monitor, a computer, and
it's gonna happen one day. But then we got the little arcade little box thing.
You know what's great about that? I just like figured it out, like because the studio where Claudia does her production, she does. They just had like someone create like an actual cabinet. Like it's pretty much, I think it's the same one that you have. This made the cabinet, and I was just like, oh, this is awesome. and I played with like some of the games that I loved as a kid. I was like, okay, 5 minutes is more than enough.
Yeah.
Because like you get really bored really quickly, even though I did finish Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, which has been a little bit,
in your head.
It was been like since I was 9 years old. I was like,
yeah, but that's the thing. Those games were designed to keep you hooked for as long as you would be hooked, because you didn't have like hundreds of dollars to throw into those games. So there's no point in really making them like super long and super complicated, because you're going to throw in a couple of bucks, and then your cash is finished. So then you're off to you'll be there next week again, and you can start again because you haven't played every day.
And the first level is always the best one anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
And
then the rest are all just copies of that, more or less. So that was like a different kind of game. Like that's like now I play. I put it on the projector, put the projector on the limbo, and we do like full size Street Fighter. That's fun. But then again, it lasts like half an hour, and then
then like quit.
Enough.
Yeah,
It's more than enough. It's the pixels.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Like I would never like those EA Sport like competitors. They're like full into it. That's their life.
Yeah, so you're looking at. So I'm managing the Swiss National League, and then when we have the grand finals, we try to have like a show match. And usually for the show match, we invite someone from like top tier within the ESL system or something. So you're looking at people who have, I don't know if you've read, was it Malcolm Gladwell, about like to be an expert in something, you need 10,000 hours. So these people are looking at like, they start when they're really little, but you're looking at like to be competitive at their level, you're looking at 10 to 15,000 hours in CSGO. So you bring these people to this show match in Switzerland. And keep in mind, the national championship was like the top players in Switzerland. And like we usually make like a mixed bag team with one of these pro guys on each team. And the pro guys just mop up completely. Yeah. And then usually like this last year, like we had the guy that we've invited twice. He's got 10,000 hours. And he was getting mopped by the other guy, the other pro, but just mopped. And he was like really good. Like I didn't invite him because it was bad. I invited him because it was top and he was cool and he was skilled. But the other guy was just mopping him up. So like the level and the dedication. I mean, if you're looking at pro esports, I mean, the estimation is like esports is going to be taking more market share than basically
real sport,
movies and TV shows combined. So
wow. Combined?
Yeah.
That's mad.
It's so crazy. Like we might get to the point where people don't care as much about Messi as the guy digitally playing Messi in a FIFA game kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, it's weird to think with this pandemic thing too, because people are really hyper focused on these esports personalities. But that's where we could potentially end up there. There's so many people watching.
Yeah. Also because like it gets to, I think sports, we're getting to the limit of what the human body can do. Like
unless we want to green light like
CRISPR
drugs or CRISPR and things like this, which is a moral argument. But I would agree with you. Like I think we're almost to that point where like, how much more can we push it to stay within the existing moral framework we have?
What is a human? That human can go that far, can jump that far, can jump that high, can run for this long. You know, that's it. And so like Messi is probably the best footballer we'll ever see. You know, we might get a little bit of like, what can he do that's going to be better than what he does? You know, like,
and how much better is it going to be?
How much?
Is it going to be, you know, a few points better, a couple more goals over the lifetime career?
Yeah.
And you say, he like Messi retired, and the next guy after 25 years got like 4 more goals, so he's the greatest that ever was. But it's not like he's going to crush Messi's goal.
It's going to be incremental until there's like a rule change or they really like
physical mutation,
synthetics
after the nuclear war.
Because you got to think faster. Your reactions have to be quicker. That's how
it's like Formula One kind of like millisecond calculations. Like he's better just because he's like 1.5 milliseconds faster.
Yeah. This is where I see something like zero latency becoming sort of this middle ground thing, because you're physical, you're moving around in space, so the movements of your body aren't limited to like, you're not using your joysticks, but you're also playing in a digital environment that's like 360 degrees. You can have things like
gunshots and explosions and moving walls and all of these sorts of creative environmental things that you can do in a video game that we can't do in real world in a healthy way. I mean, we all watched, I don't know if you watched American Gladiator.
Of course, man.
Yeah.
Of course. I loved it. I always wanted to do it.
So like you have those, but you don't actually have like a blade that cuts someone in half. But in a digital world, you could have something which physically would be fatal.
Do you have haptic feedback when you like slide stuff? Or you got a gun in your
This has
version,
got a
right?
gun. I mean, I've only played it once. I'm not. I know there are systems for haptic, and it's definitely can be integrated.
It'll come sooner or later.
Yeah, like I'm seeing Zero Latency as right now the world leader in like the tip of the spear. I can definitely see where it could go. Like I'm thinking haptic feedback. Right now, Zero Latency you can only play against the people. Like it's co-op. Most of the games are co-op, but they have one versus game. But you can only play that versus game in the same space. So it's us 4 against you 4 in the same space.
Right.
I think the next step would be us 8 in this warehouse against 8 people in Madrid, 8 people in Stockholm.
Wow.
Like that would be
Yeah.
the next level because then you add in haptic feedback. So we're getting back to like shooting paintballs at each other really fast.
Exactly.
So there's an impact, there's fear. You could decide, I guess you have to calibrate
You
the
can
haptic
also have
feedback.
like virtual walls that you could feel. You know, because you could put a hand and then you'd have the feedback and it would be like almost touching the wall, you know, or like when you cut through something, you'd feel like the shock on your hand.
You'd have to wear like
it'd
an
have to be like a
exoskeleton
suit that you're wearing that would have to, something like that.
I've seen a suit for the medieval fighting, a super
wow.
technological suit that registers the force that people get hit by. You can YouTube it later, but it's like it looks like a motorcycle suit, and they're just beating on each other with swords. But it registers the force, and it tells you like was that actually enough to do any damage or not.
Awesome.
But if all of these things converge in the next 10 years, you could have something where the athlete, so the physical athlete and the esports athlete, which right now are very different because the peak physical athlete is like 25 to 30,
Right.
still fit but smart and good shape, and like the peak esports athlete is like 12 years old, 20 years old,
really fast.
really fast.
Yeah, and
like
hyperactive.
Yeah. And where could these meet somewhere without crossing over into like genetically modifying human beings, but also creating a format? Because think about it, like people, we enjoyed physical sports because that's what we grew up with. And like video games, they were cool, but were they that cool? I mean, you're saying you go back and play it now, and after 2 minutes, you're like, this is really dumb.
Yeah.
People now have like, I don't know, have you seen the graphics in like Battlefield or something like this?
It's incredible.
Like it's more real
looks
than real.
Yeah.
Or I could watch, football.
It looks like movie real.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like 1917. You're like, no, I don't think 1917 looked like 1917.
No.
It
No.
was like dirtier.
Way dirtier.
And
Didn't have that
smelly.
HD back then.
And it was
black and white.
for sure.
People
for
moved
sure.
all like
Sepia.
sepia.
It was just shitty, and everything wasn't so perfectly composed. And there were light poles. Like if you try to take a picture in 1917, there was definitely a light pole or a piece of a cow somewhere.
Of course.
Just in the shot in the wrong place. So yeah, it'll be awesome. I think it'll be like amazing how
Super interesting,
Going
especially
forward.
now with all like the exoskeletons that people are starting to like build and stuff.
Yeah, but then like even that's the future of warfare in a certain way, isn't it? You just get all those machines from Boston Dynamics. You put a man's mind inside of that.
Well, they just did, some marketing firm in New York City just did a thing this week. They like mounted a paintball gun on a Boston Dynamics dog, and they let people from the internet control it for 3 minutes at a time. And Boston Dynamics asked them not to do it because the whole thing was to be like a demo about what are the risks here when you like. And Boston Dynamics was like, we'll give you 2 more dogs if you don't do the marketing campaign with the paintball thing. And the marketing firm wrote back like, the fact that you're willing to offer us 2 new dogs so that we don't do this is exactly the reason why we need to do this, to show people like what the risks are.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. I mean, robotic warfare, drone warfare,
That's it.
like swarm drone warfare. Like that's super. There's a super scary YouTube video, like a fake documentary, but it could happen where like if you launched like 2,000 drones over the city of Milan, we have enough access to open data now. I could say, and each of those has a little, I don't know, explosive charge on it. I could say like, I could just select people based on like the conversations they've been having on Twitter. So everyone who hashtagged Sanremo tonight, find them. it will find the person holding that phone. It can identify their face, and it could go pop in their face. And like, boop. I mean,
it's like the bees
scary.
from Black Mirror.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have these really cool opportunities that we're talking about gaming. I want to be able to game like in my exoskeleton suit in my digital world with my buddies against people in another country, and I think that's competitive and potentially faux violence, but it's something that audiences could get behind all over the world, like South Korea.
It'll be Tron.
Yeah, it'd be Tron.
Yeah.
Or we could murder each other with drones and robodogs.
It'll probably be both. Yeah, for sure.
It'll probably be people who think they're playing like a game. They're actually killing people.
Like Ender's Game, man. Have you read Ender's Game?
No.
Can I spoil it for you?
Of course, I don't care about spoilers.
Spoil for him.
Okay, Ender's recruited as a small child to train to fight, to train to defend the world using spaceships. But he's in like a computer control room, and all of his little buddies are in a computer control room, and they just run simulation after simulation after simulation, where like whole navies get wiped out while they're trying to fight these alien bugs. And at the end, they finally win. They're like, okay, you've finished the last simulation. You're ready to go to war. And they're like, sweet, okay, I think we're ready. And they're like, no, that was a simulation.
Huh.
Wow.
And then Ender's just like, because it means like millions of pilots and stuff died because
they were just fucking around.
But they just told the kids, because the kids were fast and the kids were smart and the kids were developed. So like, okay, we're just gonna put you in this room and you're just gonna battle these simulations with like your Navy is set up exactly the way our ships are set up, and those bug simulations, those are exactly the types of ships. So you have to just try to figure out their tactics over time and beat them, so that in the future you can defend the planet. And then really they were like in lifetime defending the planet. And then at the end, so like, the last chapter of the book, Ender's just like completely like
knocked down completely. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I bet that's the way forward. And the hard thing now is figuring out, like, I mean, I don't know if you follow Sam Harris, and he's a neuroscientist that he's written a few books about morality.
Okay.
One's called The Moral Landscape, where he talks about, like when you look at a landscape, you got high points and you got low points, and it's not like a positive thing that it's a high point or a low point. It just is. So like where you are in morality isn't really ever like a wrong thing. It's just the point of view, like the way that you act when you're inside that thing, and all that. So
interesting.
So it's really, really interesting. But he's like going hard on AI. Like he's really, really worried about like what it'll do to humans, of course. And he's like,
it will eat them.
It'll eat them. But I mean, that's what he says. Like, we're going to definitely 100% design something that is going to go and fuck us over completely. And then you got it on the other side, like, so the more optimistic people are like, no, but we'll 100% like put in some fail-safes. It'll be fine. Loads of people are going to have beautiful girlfriends all of a sudden. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting couple of years. I think we're all worried about like what to call women and like these problems that we have at the moment that are like
gender.
Yeah, gender and just like what's happening in the third world. Is it gonna? And at the end,
in 15 years, we're going to call each other survivors.
Like, we need to figure this shit out. We're going to go live in the third world for sure, 100%.
There's one apocalypse that I think I'm going to enjoy watching is the robot one.
You're going to enjoy it until you're getting shot in the face.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're going to die, I want to see like what happens with the technology. At least, not like a fucking.
Can
volcano.
You imagine a robot apocalypse happening and you fall off a chair and die? Like,
that would kind of suck. How many dinosaurs didn't get to see the asteroid coming through.
Yeah, they just had their food die.
Were watching and then like fell off a cliff or fell into some tar or something.
Yeah.
Oh well, that shit happens.
Well, shit happens.
We'll put that on your tombstone after like the drones have chopped you up. Here lies René. Shit happens.
And then robot blew my face off because it like tracked my GPS. There you go.
Because you said the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And that goes into freedom of speech and all that kind of stuff. We can hit that next time.
Yeah, we should. We should wrap it up here, guys.
Yeah,
it's been great.
We've covered a couple of hours.
Definitely.
And wow, you got like an amazing life to talk about. So it was really interesting for me.
Thanks, you guys. It was great to see you.
Good.
And I can't wait to we're going to do another episode, I think.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
And I'm going to bring these guys to Zero Latency. I'm going to put them through the loop I'm going to try to set it up so you get at least 3 experiences here.
We're going to go there with like a white glove and check all the horizontal like planes.
That's not
tell
nice.
you where to
No?
stick that white glove.
Right up your...
So yeah, thank you guys, and everyone check out Zero Latency, like Studio Arcade, subscribe. You know the drill.
That's what we don't do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank
Come
you.
on, get with it, guys.
He has
Subscribe. These are
MBA,
good
see?
guys. They need their love. I need my love. I'll put my finger here. Maybe there'll be a link that pops up. Maybe here. I don't know. That's
Oh man, he's good.
Maybe
at
in the
this. He's good at
description.
this.
post editing.
Ben, thank you so much.
Thank you,
buddy.
guys.
Let's get you back to your wife.
Have a great night.
Cheers. Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.